Chunglan Du is an undergraduate student at Christ College. She won the right to speak through open audition. Just do you have the ears of the house.
Is this working? Okay. I used to live in Jerusalem, so this is an issue that hits very close to home for me. I went to school there, my family worked there, and our daily lives were very much impacted by the Israel-Palestine conflict. So I will speak from my personal experience about why I believe exchanging land for peace is perhaps the best, if not the only solution. First, I would like to speak about the West Bank. There's undeniable tension between Israeli settlers and the Palestinians who occupied that part of the West Bank before. I believe that if Israel were to give up its settlements in the West Bank, it would benefit both parties. Many people might think this would only benefit the Palestinians, who would be getting their land back. I'll explain why that's not the case with a story. Of my two closest friends, one lives in the Israeli settlement of Efrat, and another lives in the Palestinian town of Beit Jala. My Israeli friend told me about how her settlement was a safe little bubble for her, but as soon as she stepped outside, it was a hostile environment. Arabs would pass by in cars and spit at her. She felt extremely unsafe. Every day, she traveled from her settlement to Jerusalem for school, nervously passing through the West Bank and Israeli checkpoints. Israel had hoped that by expanding into the West Bank and building settlements there, they would accommodate more of their people, but in reality, it endangers them. And now from the Palestinian perspective, my friend, who lives in the Palestinian town of Beit Jala, told me that her family was originally from West Jerusalem, but they were removed from their homes and given a house in the West Bank as compensation many generations ago. I recall when my friend from the Israeli settlement had organized a little get-together for a few friends. My Palestinian friend could not go. She said it was not only against her moral compass to enter a settlement, but also very dangerous for her. From this we can see the Palestinians had been living on the same land in the West Bank for generations and generations.
On that point, madam.
No, thank you. Suddenly, another group of people remove them from their homes and build a community, which they are barred from entering. Entering such a community could have serious repercussions for them. Setting aside the political tensions, if this happened between any two groups of people, it would be a source of tension. The end result is neither beneficial for the Israelis nor Palestinians. Both sides feel unsafe and endangered. I remember when I lived there, the news was filled with incidents of both parties attacking each other. This further goes to show how both parties feel unsafe and feel a strong need to turn to violence as their form of security. I'm sorry, I'm on a time limit as well. The only way towards peace is by understanding and communicating with one another on an equal footing. If each side fears the other, there is no chance of any mutual understanding or communication. And the ultimate way to eliminate this fear in the West Bank and allow both sides to see each other at eye level is if Israel gives up its settlements there. Second, we turn to the issue of East and West Jerusalem. My home was in West Jerusalem, in a neighborhood called Rehavia. The neighborhood was entirely composed of ultra-Orthodox Jews. The streets were filled with the sound of prayers coming from synagogues, which is the Jewish place of worship. And during traditional Jewish celebrations, there would be music and dancing, and overall a really festive atmosphere. Meanwhile, I went to a school that was predominantly East Jerusalem Arabs. In school, many of my teachers and peers were Palestinians, so we celebrated very different holidays and events. It is unbelievable how different the two sides of the city are. The languages spoken on the street are different, the clothing worn, and the style of buildings are all so different. But I think the issue in Jerusalem should be distinguished from the issue in the West Bank. Due to the holy sites and religious importance of Jerusalem to both Israelis and Palestinians, I do not believe it is reasonable to ask either side to exchange their land for peace. The Old City at the heart of Jerusalem is such an important religious site for Jews, Muslims, and Christians alike. This area simply has to be shared. But the main issue with Israel giving up control of East Jerusalem is that East Jerusalem has become so reliant upon Israel in all aspects of life. Basic necessities like water, heating, transportation, and security are all controlled by Israel at the moment. So to ask Israel to suddenly remove its control would be a huge unbearable loss to the Arabs living there. I know from my experience that, for example, there is only one tram line in Jerusalem, and it connects East and West Jerusalem. Every time I was on the tram, the faces around me were always a mix of Arabs and Jews. The conversations I heard were a mix of Arabic and Hebrew. And in daily life, the two peoples have actually fused and connected in countless ways. For example, my school was next to an Orthodox Jewish school, and we shared the same football field with them. Both our schools had a door leading onto the football field. Every day during lunchtime, you would see Palestinians from my school and Jewish Israelis from the other school sharing the space peacefully, and oftentimes playing a match together. And this does not just happen in one place, it happens everywhere in Jerusalem. To ordinary citizens, their only desire is for a peaceful home. They have no personal objections against the other side and are in fact quite happy to befriend or learn more about the other side. These are all reasons why a complete removal of Israel's control in East Jerusalem is unlikely. What could be done instead is removing settlements and ceasing to accommodate more Israeli Jews in traditionally Arab areas. Take the Sheikh Jarrah dispute from early 2021. Sheikh Jarrah is a neighborhood located in East Jerusalem. The dispute was essentially a complicated legal issue where both the Israelis and Palestinians claimed ownership of property in Sheikh Jarrah. If we trace back the ownership of property and divide Israeli and Palestinian territory based on that, it would be nearly impossible. This is simply because of how ambiguous ownership in Jerusalem has become. There would be claims dating all the way back to the Second Temple period and the Ottoman era, which would be incredibly difficult to prove. Therefore, it would be most effective to divide territory simply based on West and East Jerusalem, while acknowledging that the Holy City may perpetually be shared rather than being territory belonging to one side. And so, to conclude, I know that peace in Israel-Palestine is entirely possible. I saw it with my own eyes. When I was working in a summer camp for Israeli and Palestinian children, I watched them play together and laugh together. Or when I sang in the Jerusalem Youth Chorus, which is a peace-building choir comprised of Israeli and Palestinian youths, I saw that everyone there was eager to learn cultural songs in each other's language. Or when I met students whose fathers were Palestinian and mothers were Israeli, or the other way around, when I asked them where they think they are from, they always respond with, I am both Israeli and Palestinian. The next generation of Israelis and Palestinians do not have to grow up being taught to hate the other side. I believe there is no right or wrong side in the Israel-Palestine conflict. Both sides have very reasonable demands and legitimate needs. The Israelis need a place to call home after centuries of diaspora, and so do the Palestinians. When the demands of both sides are reasonable, the only way forward is coexistence. But it is important to remember that one's reasonable demands should not be founded on the basis of invading another's reasonable demands. Israel's reasonable need for a home should not be founded on the basis of depriving the Palestinians of a home. They are able to do this right now because they are militarily more powerful than the Palestinians. But the age of using force to get what one wants is long gone. The age of taking a pencil and a ruler to divide up the Middle East, as was done in World War I, is also long gone. Now is the age of negotiation, the age of each side expressing their reasonable demands, hearing the other side's perspective, and finding a solution that benefits both. And the first step towards mutual understanding, and ultimately towards negotiation, is to convince Israel to exchange land for peace. Thank you.